Friends, let's talk about pre-workout supplements, or as they're commonly called, pre-workouts. I'll tell you how to increase their effectiveness and minimize their harmful effects. In this video, I'll answer three main questions. First, how much should you take? Second, how often should you take it? Third, I'll discuss when to take it and who should avoid it entirely. Watch until the end for all the details. Let's get started. Pre-workouts have been around for quite a while, I would say. And if we remember the history back in the 60s and 80s, caffeine was commonly used as a pre-workout, and nicotinic acid was also used because it helped dilate blood vessels. And all the athletes that Arnold probably wanted to be like were using those kinds of pre-workouts. But there are different kinds of pre-workouts. There was a time when ephedrine was used as a pre-workout, but ephedrine was banned because there were fatal cases. People used it as a pre-workout. This went on for several years. People would calmly take ephedrine and then get behind the wheel of a car. Ephedrine is basically a drug. It's a very strong stimulant that led to people simply having their heart stop during physical exertion. After it was banned, people started using ephedra. Ephedra does not contain alkaloids or ephedrine, so it is relatively safe. But pre-workout supplements with ephedra, not ephedrine, but ephedra, still have a huge number of contraindications. These include high eye pressure, arterial hypertension, diabetes, breastfeeding, and pregnancy. So, if you decide to try a pre-workout with ephedra, be sure to consult a doctor first. What happened next? And then creatine appeared. Creatine seems like it was invented 40 or 50 years ago, but actually that's not the case. Creatine first appeared in 1990 and it hit the mass market in 1993. This is the supplement that is probably still a bestseller and number one among those who promote strength sports. Today, pre-workouts consist of several components. Mainly, it's caffeine, L-arginine, citrulline, beta-alanine, and sometimes they also contain carbohydrates. Many people ask, how can you even tell if pre-workouts are good or not? For this, you need to understand exactly what you expect from a pre-workout. People take it for several reasons. First, to increase strength during workouts. Second, to increase training volume. And third, for better recovery after training. Today, I'll talk about each of these components, which are usually found in any pre-workout. Whichever one you choose, you can see all these components and understand how much of each component is in there. And my goals are this and that. But the most important rule is the dosage, always. No matter what it's made of, there's always caffeine in there. If it's a caffeine-containing pre-workout, the dosage you should take is important. You should only base it on the coffee but that's because you can take a bit more creatine and a bit more beta-alanine, but caffeine has strictly regulated doses. The doses are strictly regulated. That's why I'll show you how to select the optimal pre-workout dose based solely on caffeine content, and pay attention. Next, let's break down pre-workouts. The first thing that's most often found in them is caffeine. Caffeine mainly has a stimulating effect on the central nervous system. So, if your only goal for taking pre-workout supplements is just to perk up and stop feeling sleepy, you might not even need any of the other ingredients. Maybe you should just take pure caffeine. The effect of guarana-based pre-workouts varies from person to person. They may be milder compared to other pre-workout supplements. For me personally, for example, I don't tolerate guarana well. It gives me heartburn and increases my heart rate. So I tolerate caffeine better than guarana, even though it would seem like guarana should be easier to handle, but I actually tolerate it worse. The second common ingredient is beta-alanine. Beta-alanine doesn't boost your strength and it's unlikely to increase your endurance. But it will help you get rid of metabolites faster, meaning the byproducts of your physical activity. You worked out, your body produced lactic acid, and the speed at which it's removed and processed from your body, when all that soreness goes away, directly depends on this amino acid. So, if your goal is recovery, not strength performance or getting energized, then maybe you should just take it separately. You don't need that entire mix in your pre-workout. The third component is citrulline and L-arginine. They mainly cause vasodilation and also help a bit, and especially arginine, with metabolism. Unlike nicotinic acid, which people used to use for workouts, these supplements don't have such side effects. Because in fact, these are precursors of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is what dilates your blood vessels. So, if your pre-workout contains these two amino acids, most likely they will increase blood flow to your skeletal muscles and you'll get a better pump during your workouts. A separate supplement, I won't talk about it for long because there's a separate video about it on my channel where I explain everything in detail. That's creatine, which is often found in pre-workout supplements. But if your goal isn't strength performance, why do you need creatine? If your goal is, for example, some kind of team sport, creatine can sometimes work against you. You'll get fatigued more easily on it. Today I explained what pre-workouts are made of. And you can buy each component separately and make yourself a pre-workout without caffeine, or make a pre-workout by mixing certain components. I will definitely share a few recipes of the pre-workouts that I made for myself on my Telegram channel. The link to the Telegram channel is in the description below this video. Alexander Yu.
For marathon runners, some popular pre-workouts are just shots of concentrated magnesium, B6, some kind of strong concentrate, a heavy dose. It's like a pre-workout. How does it even work?
What do you most often get injured from? When does it usually happen? Never? You just came to the gym, warmed up, and it's the first or second set. But most often, actually, it's when you're already doing sets to failure, or you can even get injured during high rep sets, when you're already exhausted, and that's when you lose control. B vitamins and magnesium are very important for healthy functioning. They say that the connection between muscles and mind is crucial. Losing that concentration and control is when injuries occur. That's mainly where it's used. Failures actually happen there. And they don't really keep an eye on the technique, like you remember in CrossFit. Yeah, it's a very injury-prone sport.
Long workouts, not like where you just do 2 or 3 sets to the max.
Yeah, 2 or 3 sets to the max. I think that's how it is there. I wouldn't call it a pre-workout. I would say it's a mineral and vitamin complex. Yeah, it's vitamins and minerals. Well, yeah, it'll work. But still, when you're training for an hour and a half, or 40 minutes, you need to show your peak performance.
Is there any point in paying attention to pre-workouts that have some kind of massive doses of vitamins added? For example, there's a well-known one where the vitamin dose is 5,000%. And they hit a lot of people harder than the stimulants.
I don't really like animal pack because it has huge doses of vitamins. Adding more of something may not help. I don't like that. On the bright side, I might get some vitamins. I think they used to write that this pill of a certain color is this, and that one is that. So you can just throw something out if you need to. Like if you're allergic to vitamin C, you just take it and throw it away. I don't know if they write that now or not. But in general, I'm not a supporter of huge doses of vitamins. I'm a supporter of balanced, proper nutrition in the long term. That is, to constantly get vitamins from food. If you can't manage it and you're trying, then you can add vitamins as supplements. Vitamins are only needed by those who can't get them from food. Indeed, large doses sometimes have a stimulating effect. But the main rule of vitamins is that they work where there is a deficiency. How much pre-workout should I take? The key component in pre-workout supplements is caffeine. When evaluating a pre-workout, prioritize the caffeine content above other ingredients. The first thing you need to know is how much caffeine you consume in a day. For example, you already had 100 milligrams of caffeine during the day. Maybe you had a cup of coffee with 100 milligrams for breakfast, then at lunch, and then in the evening you come home and get 400 more from your pre-workout. But you are exceeding the possible dose. In general, it's considered that if you're consuming around 200 milligrams of caffeine, the maximum allowable daily amount varies. The recommended dosage ranges from 3 to 6 mg per kilo of body weight. Well, let's take me as an example. I weigh 115 kilograms right now. So for me, that's, almost 700 milligrams of caffeine. For example, I already feel bad with 400, so I don't really agree with 6 grams. You can get to that amount if you've started taking it. The dose increases. As often happens with pre-workouts, they stop working, tolerance develops, and coffee stops energizing you. So you need a bigger and stronger dose. Of course, this isn't very good. This tolerance, meaning insensitivity to caffeine, even though it has both negative and positive effects. By the way, there's a separate episode about coffee on the channel. Check it out. Focus on caffeine. Don't try to go up to 6 grams. Try to keep your limit at 4 grams per kilogram of body weight. If 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is in your pre-workout, stops giving you energy, you can increase it to the dose I mentioned, so that the total amount per day is 4 milligrams. But scientific articles say you can go up to 6. But as a doctor, I still disagree and believe that 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is the limit. Is there
signs of going overboard based on external symptoms include shaking hands during a workout after taking a pre-workout supplement.
Hand tremors, is that really your nervous system? Caffeine does have a stimulating effect. For example, I used to like drinking coffee in the morning, but I started to notice especially before a big surgery that lasts 5 or 6 hours, that it helps to perk up. I drink a cup of coffee, get up, and for the first hour or hour and a half after coffee, even I have a tremor. And on top of that, we put on surgical suits, meaning the cap, mask, lights, and then a sterile surgical gown with gloves on top. You're already hot as it is, you start sweating even more, then you come out completely soaked, and for the first hour or hour and a half, it's just uncomfortable. It's fine to operate, but it's uncomfortable, so I don't allow myself to take any stimulants during the day, considering that I might have to go into surgery at any moment. And in general, yes, it can cause tremors, and that's not a sign. It's a sign of nervous system fatigue. But here's a good guideline for you. I'll tell you. It's your resting pulse. Let's say you're planning to start taking pre-workout supplements. Well, for example, you, Sasha, measure your pulse in the morning, and let's say your resting pulse is like that of a trained person. 50 beats, 52 beats, 48 beats. You take pre-workouts for a week or two, and of course, after training, you more or less know how it used to be for you. And suddenly, after 2 or 3 weeks of taking pre-workouts, you notice your morning pulse is 60, then you see 62, 64, 68 on some day. My opinion is that you should stop taking pre-workouts when your morning pulse has increased by 25% and this lasts for more than 4 days. How often should you use pre-workouts? That's the second question. Very often, I'm very observant at the gym. I see how people work out. I see what people are taking. Often I see in the locker room when we're changing, some guy, skinny, thin, young, and he comes in on a weekend. I notice all of this. He shakes up his shaker. I see him putting in some new supplement, half a scoop, and he's so skinny himself, so he's already overdoing it. We come to practice. I don't look at the weights, but I can roughly tell by looking at a person how hard they're working out, how intense it is for them. I see that basically it's not even that hard for him. Well, it's like he's working out with warm-up weights. At the same time, he's taken a bunch of pre-workout supplements. And his whole workout, which lasts an hour and a half, he spends an hour and a half working on his biceps, and he's only doing one isolation exercise. That's nonsense. I think so, but you don't have to agree. But I think that training the lower body, meaning the front of the thigh, the back of the thigh, the legs, in other words, the legs, is probably the only area where a true athlete can really show their full potential. Upper body, it's not necessary, honestly. I'm telling you, it's not necessary. But if you use it, well, you use it. I've never really used them. When they were present in my life, it was only outside of training. Legs are harder, they help more. It's easier to handle the so-called soreness, which is strongest after biceps and back. Maybe you can't even walk or move or turn, your legs hurt when you really work them out. Because it's the largest muscle group by volume, the most damage happens there, the biggest swelling occurs, and the largest release of mediators takes place. They need help. Yes, you really can help them. Working out your biceps with a pre-workout might give you a bit more pump, but health is more valuable. If we're talking about longevity, then try to limit pre-workout. Try to limit it. Pre-workout doesn't give you strength, it just mobilizes your resources. While running long distances, a person may experience pain, fatigue, and exhaustion. However, in a marathon, they can suddenly get a second wind and feel renewed energy. It's not the Lord who sent you strength. It's overstimulation of the nervous system, and the body gives its last reserves, but then there's an even bigger drop afterward. And that's why you'll pay for all stimulations later, but the price is your nervous system, your health. That's my opinion. The third important question is the timing of intake. You're asking, how long before? I see some people just drink it and run off. You can't do that, there's no point. According to all studies, pre-workouts, especially those containing caffeine, start to work properly around the 30th minute. The best time to drink it is 30 to 35 minutes before your workout. Drinking it right before or an hour to an hour and a half prior is not effective. This timing ensures the pre-workout is at peak concentration in your blood during the workout period, with caffeine being the key reference point. In 30 minutes, the contents will reach their peak and it will last right up until the end of your workout. So please take it 30 minutes before. And another important thing, not just about taking it 30 minutes before your workout, even if you're tired, even if it's 8 or 9 in the evening. Avoid pre-workout supplements, particularly those with caffeine, as they stimulate your nervous system. And according to all the studies, which by the way we'll share regarding everything I'm talking about today on my channel, the link to which is below this video, all studies have long reliably proven that the nervous system really suffers. And according to doctors' recommendations, well, 6 hours is the absolute minimum. Still, it affects the duration of sleep. For us, as a guideline, you fall asleep, you wake up, and everyone looks at how long you slept, but the quality of sleep, well, the quality of sleep will also suffer. This shows in how long it takes you to fall asleep, how deeply you sleep, and your nervous system and endocrine system will depend on this. The choice is simple. Either don't drink during evening training or drink, but don't complain about not having good health. If
a person goes to the gym after work, drinking during training is not an option.
Well, I think no, that's nonsense. What is he going there for? To be beautiful or to be healthy if you're just after beauty? Yeah, then let him inject. And I don't know if that's more important to him, let him do what he wants. But if we're still striving for this outer shell to be a reflection that everything inside me is fine, that everything inside me works like clockwork, well then, everything about male principles and the secrets of testosterone is in my broadcast, which is free. The link is under this video, so please check it out. Watch everything for free. It's all for you, friends.
How many times a week is allowed?
With a stash, 2-3 times at most. I think 2-3 at most, but 2 is better. The most important thing is not to use it during training just because you're simply too lazy, because laziness, if you haven't worked actively today, if you've had a good night's sleep, you shouldn't compensate for a lack of self-discipline by pouring stimulants into yourself. Start by strengthening your spirit, because laziness won't be beaten out of you during training. And what will they do for you in such cases? That's a health problem. My secret is simple. Why don't I use them? I know precisely when training is necessary and when it's not. If I'm objectively tired, didn't sleep, had an 8-hour surgery, or there was a fight in the evening, well, why should I force myself, push myself, and go if I'm just going to destroy my body? But if I'm just being lazy, if I know my day was easy, if today is, say, a day off, and suddenly I feel a lack of energy, but I know for a fact that I did everything right, so that everything is fine with my body. I know my hormones are fine, I know I got enough sleep today, I know I had a proper breakfast. I won't have a dialogue with my inner self that says maybe you shouldn't go, maybe you're tired. I'll tell it to go to hell, I'm going to work out, and I don't need any pre-workout supplements. I just grab my bag and go to the gym. I don't listen to my inner voice, which doesn't always give good advice. People often ask, how? Our inner voice should be our ally and friend, providing us with good advice. Here's a simple example for you. You all know that a contrast shower is extremely beneficial. You know, what does your inner voice say when you're just starting this practice? When you've just brought your hand close but haven't turned on the faucet yet? When you know that cold water will pour, it will be beneficial, it's necessary. Did you decide this consciously? Your inner voice warns against doing it, saying it's too cold and you'll get sick. It urges you to move your hand away and not proceed. And that's why, friends, sometimes you need to listen to yourself, but sometimes you still need to do what you've decided with a clear mind. And what's in your daily routine? Don't be lazy, do sports, stay healthy, subscribe to my channel, and watch for new episodes.